Well, hello and welcome to my Lead What You Live podcast with Tina Lizzio. And I have a very, very special episode for you today. I'm not used to working with more than one-on-one, but I really felt called today to work with three G's, three generations. So with me today, I have the infamous, seasoned George Dubec, the ultimate networker, and also Jess Hoffman. She is Project Ultimate Life, and she's traveled all over the world and up to some really cool stuff. So she is my millennial here. So we've got baby boomer, me in Gen X, and Jess, a millennial. So the three of us are going to discuss today the trifecta in this game of life: health, wealth, and relationships. So all things health, wealth, and relationships. And so all of the different the topics around that, the issues, our perspectives, our world viewpoints, and how they align and are different among the generations. And so what is possible for our future going forward? So without any further ado, George, I would like to start with you, right? Age before beauty?
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so George, talk to us. Let's talk about health. You are 77 years young and hot.
Well, yeah, 77. I always say it's a no fun zone. I can honestly tell everybody this is not an area that is as enjoyable as when you're 30 or 40 or 50 years old. So, but the number one thing, as you mentioned when we started, was health. When you get to be this age, health is wealth. It's almost everything. Because if you're not feeling good, if you got a problem, nothing else matters. So when you're younger, you don't pay as much attention because you don't start to have issues and problems. But when you start having them, then that usurps everything else going on in your life. So you need to do everything you can when you're younger to prevent any issues coming up when you're older. Now, I never smoked, I never drank, I never took a drug in my life, ever. Never took a drop of alcohol.
Really?
No.
I did not know that.
Never did it.
That's amazing.
I worked out all my life. I work out. I go twice a day to the gym. I do cardio in the morning, and I do some Pilates and aerobics and exercise at night and stuff like that. And just
how did you resist the temptation in the era that you grew up?
I don't know. In fact, I always wanted to smoke. My dad was a chain smoker, and I used to get the cartons of cigarettes that he brought home, and I would play with the packs of cigarettes. I thought it was so cool. I said, I can't wait till I get older and buy my own cigarettes. I just never did. I don't know. All my friends were heavy partiers, drinkers. And then I used to go back in the 70s to parties, and people would really be mad at me because they wanted me to do drugs. They wanted me to smoke marijuana. And they even cornered me a couple times to try to stuff a reefer in my mouth. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I don't want to do it. But one thing I did like to do is I used to like to chase girls. That was my my whole thing.
So maybe you felt like it was better to be sober when you were doing that.
All
right?
the guys were smoking and drinking at the side over there, and I was out on the dance floor dancing with all the girls. So there you go.
So girls were your drug of choice.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that was, yeah, I have to be honest about that. But I had a fun life, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. That's very inspiring for younger people to know that it is possible to get to where you are in life and not have smoked and drank and also, P.S., not feel like that you missed anything or that you're missing anything.
Yeah, I I really enjoyed, my life without being inebriated. Well, one thing that I noticed is a lot of people, especially when you're younger and you're meeting and dating and mating and all that kind of stuff, people feel more loose when they have a lot of drinks. They feel more uninhibited. And I was always able to be uninhibited without drinking. So maybe that was another reason I didn't need to have alcohol. Well, yeah, you're high energy.
I'm high energy.
Oh my God, yeah, you're just like off the walls. I mean, she walks into a room and it's like, man, Tina's here.
The energy has entered the room.
Yes,
exactly. And so I really gravitate towards those also, like yourself, with high energy at any age, male, female, And so, Jess, you have amazing energy. We met just a couple months ago at Dr. Joe Dispenza's advanced meditation retreat out in Colorado. And so over a lunch, and here came this big ball of, positive, vibrant energy. And we started having a conversation. What are you up to? What are you up to? And so tell me, what is your view as a millennial today? You're 38, 38? Yeah. So what is your perspective on health?
Well, I would absolutely agree that health is wealth. As an athlete growing up, I had a lot of injuries and different things. And so as I aged, entered into my 30s, I experienced, the inflammation or the pain coming back from these early injuries, rotator tears, these types of things. And so around, the age 30, 31, 32, I woke up to, man, if I don't really start taking care of myself, making sure I'm getting the right nutrients, working my body, moving my body, these types of things, I can only see the progression of where this goes. And I put a hard stop and then really started to shift I've always been active. I've always been a mover, a shaker. Diet has always been pretty in control, but things like partying and these types of things, like it has a physical effect. And so I got to the point where I was like, I don't want alcohol in my life anymore. It doesn't make me feel good. I enjoy, these environments with people and I can vibrate and it's awesome. And I actually prefer that. And I feel so much better as a result of it. So I think that, when I was going through university and stuff, there was still very much like a party and I gave in to the, trying to put a reefer in my mouth or whatever. And I just feel like, that was very much the culture then for my university type experience. And of course, those things live with you for a few years. I do see in the younger generation, now it's actually kind of cool to be sober. And so that's, a shift, I think, from different generations and how they're looking at it.
And at the same time, legalization of marijuana, though.
Yeah.
Also, so now it's being legalized.
Mm-hmm. I've also been out of the U.S. for 10 years, so I haven't experienced a lot of there are, in Doha, Qatar, alcohol. There's one store that you can actually buy it from, and then obviously all other drugs illegal. Same Malaysia. So those types of things weren't in my reality for the last 10 years. So can't speak specifically to, although I have ideas of what's going on in the U.S. But yeah, now that things are legal, access is just that much more available. I can definitely see how people, maybe if they're not super conscious of health and that's on their radar, they could maybe go down some paths that wouldn't be super productive for the mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, social, all the things of life.
I think it's really great when younger people start embracing spirituality and transformation and so looking inward as opposed to much later in life when there's a midlife crisis and going within. As a Gen Xer in my mid 50s, the number one law and principle that resonates with me most is that everything is energy. So, and as everything is energy, therefore energy is everything to me. So if my energy and vibe is not high, it is going to, it directly affects my results in life, my personal and professional results, depending on how high my energy is. So what are those things that are impacting my energy? It's not just what is your fuel source and level of fitness, but also what am I listening to? What am I watching? Who are the individuals that I'm engaging with? The energy of other people. We'll talk more about this, but the quality of our life experience depends on the quality of our relationship, starting with our relationship with ourself. It's ourself and to others and to life. What is our worldview? And so all of this is impacting our energy. And so for me, if my energy doing the things, and so also, as women age and the hormones it's a big topic today, right? Women going into menopause and what is the impact on the decline for men and women and the drop in the hormones? How is that affecting your mood, your attitude, your drive, your motivation? And it's impacting relationships again. So for me, that's been really important. So a top value for me is health more than it was at 25 or even 35 today. Crossed over 50. It's like, wow, I really want to be here a long time. I got a lot to do and an impact to make and things to experience. So I got to keep my energy high. You're with me. You're tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. I think one thing is when people talk about energy, I think that there's a woo-woo effect to it. It's like, what is, energy? Energy is, it's vibrational. You can feel it. It's,
yes.
It's also energy in your body. It's motivating. It's all the things. And I think that we're shifting from, my mom's generation, for example, the individuals who I'm friends with there is
Which
like,
is my generation.
which is your generation, where it's like this woo-woo thing, this energy and vibration, all the things. Whereas my generation, I feel like that's pretty accepted. And then I think the younger generation, even beyond, is like, all right, how do we really do this? Because there's just more information and access, and it becomes more normal and normalized.
What do you think?
Well, now there's one monkey wrench that goes into all this. As a personal individual that has energy and is developing yourself in the right ways, health wise, you have monkey wrenches that are children. When
Oh,
children
yes.
enter the scene, it drains
Oh, yes.
the family. I don't care what anybody says. You have to fight harder to maintain your positivity and energy. And then even worse is on the other end when you're taking care of elder parents.
Yes.
As a caretaker, okay, my own experience, my wife had to take care of her father for close to 15 years. 5 years we went to his home because he was, starting the dementia thing. And then we had to bring him into our home. And then he finally went into a home. But it was a 15-year process, and it drained my wife. Like, my wife was super fit, super athletic, high energy.
Well, that's sort of
And
where
it's
I
like,
am in Gen
wow.
X. So those who are right around, you're in your 40s, your 50s, you're dealing with, you've got dealing with. It's a blessing and it's challenging. I always say to people, I could have 3 careers and work them more easily than raising 3 kids to become successful, thriving, emotionally stable members of society, right? Contributing. And so Gen X has the parents that are aging out, right? And those concerns, and then also with kids, teenagers, kids going off to college, and all of the things between your children and your parents, and that sandwich generation of Gen X, which is Gen X right now. And so super, super challenging for people to keep your energy high and how to manage it all.
And then the other thing too is that's another super important reason to keep yourself healthy is so that your kids don't have to take care of you. The best possible way that you can live the longest and the healthiest, live younger, longer, so you don't have to put the burden on your kids. That should be a driving force to people to maintain themselves, and it's critical.
Absolutely. And so mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, sexual, social, there's all these different dimensions. We talk about health, the wheel of health, the wheel of life. We have a mental health crisis. They're talking about an epidemic in our country now, especially since COVID, a loneliness epidemic. People more than ever. It's that mixed blessing of people being able to, with the advancements in technology, to work from home and to work independently. Yet you don't have the interaction at the cubicles, in an office, and it's really causing a disconnect. We have, with technology, these dating apps, and ways of technology for people to come together and meet, so that it's not just going out to a party or to a bar in an environment of drinking, right, George? To go to meet people, and we'll talk more about that in the relationship category. So in health, mental health crisis, what's the solution? What's the solution?
Well, it's pretty much a real problem, a culture problem. I see it. It's basically the breakdown of the family. I attribute almost all of those loneliness, mental health issues to the breakdown of our families, which when I grew up in small town Ohio, everybody had 3 to 5 kids. My whole street was full of kids, and dads went to work, mom stayed home and took care of the kids. What was that called? The nuclear family or whatever. And we didn't really have mental health problems. We didn't have psychological problems. Kids, they did weird things, but all of a sudden, now in this day and age, everybody's got psychological problems. They're seeing therapists.
What do you attribute that to?
I think it's just the falling apart of the support system of grandpas, aunts, uncles. There was always people there that were available to you. Like, you might gravitate to your grandpa or maybe your uncle. Maybe it wasn't even your parents that you would embrace. It was somebody in your family. There's always other people helping, surrounding you. And now it's like my son lives in Indianapolis. My oldest daughter's up in Ohio. My young daughter lives in Fort Lauderdale. I live in Boca. And I'm going, What's wrong with
Everybody's
that
all over
picture?
the place with, again,
Yeah.
technology, travel, and
Remote
so
jobs, yeah,
remote
taking
jobs, right?
jobs,
So people
yeah.
don't stay. And so a year ago when my youngest of three went away to college, it, hit me like, wow, w- will they, the likelihood of them coming back to where I'm living and being around me and marrying and having kids and all that is pretty slim.
In fact, I had that discussion with one of my son's neighbors. She sent her daughter to Alabama. She lives in Indianapolis. And the daughter then graduated and got a job in Alabama. And I talked to her and I said, Kathy, I said, your daughter's going to probably meet some guy that's not from around here, maybe from California. She lives in Alabama. She'll get married. She'll have a kid. You're in Indianapolis and she's down there. And I go, you're going to be the grandma, but you're not going to be around your daughter and this baby.
Right.
It's crazy. Like my wife is with my younger daughter who she has a 3-year-old, and like it's amazing how that's their whole life is that little family thing, that unit, the daughter, the granddaughter, my wife. It's amazing, but I can't imagine my wife living in Ohio and my daughter living in Fort Lauderdale with that little baby.
I mean, if you have the means and you have the flexibility, of course, to travel to see your kids and see grandchildren, or they have the ability, it's a lot harder once you have kids to be the ones to travel to see the grandparents.
Well, and then my son-in-law, okay, with the 3-year-old, his parents live in New York. They never, once or twice a year, they see the granddaughter.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
And that's their only granddaughter.
Yeah, it's hard. What do you see, Jess? What do you feel about that? About the what's the solution to the mental health crisis?
I definitely say that relationships, right, make or break the experience on the planet. I have traveled so many places, and it's always the people I'm with that make or break the experience, right? I think that's true for societies in general. There's a lot of societies around the world where it is family first. I would say many places, except for the United States and some, Canada, some parts in Europe, etc. I'd say the solution would be, or at least what people are attempting, to be able to recreate the family unit, or people are joining groups on Facebook. There's different communities that center and come together around things like cryptocurrency or, health, or people who work out together. I think there's a way to kind of find that, but there's definitely a loneliness thing. I think a lot of that comes digitally. I also think that comes from, people spending more time in the online space rather than in actual reality, and the way that goes for the future, considering the metaverse, considering, avatars, going online, the future of professional coaching being literally in the online basically space and matrix, right? So I don't know if there's actual solutions to that other than if people were to get out more and actually have these real interactions. I think that would help tremendously with the feelings of loneliness and the feelings with, like sadness and not connected. So I think that, also in this country, you'll see a lot with the availability of drugs and things like addiction, runs throughout and permeates the culture. I was in Boulder and a woman said to me, the cure for addiction is connection.
Absolutely.
So the focus is, yes, the family unit, that's breaking down. That's not going the other direction. We're not going, I know that there are people online, the traditional wives, this kind of thing. That's great for those individuals. For individuals like me, I don't have a family. I don't have a partner. I am on the adventure. I live by my goals. And for sure, loneliness happens. So the solutions are finding communal workspaces, going to conferences where you can meet amazing human beings that then you're creating and you're working together. You have progress together. So I think that that's probably one of the main solutions is if you fix yourself also, if you're focusing on the nutrients you're putting in your body, the sleep that you're getting each night, and you're focusing on, exercising, moving, that's going to help your mental health no matter what, which is going to motivate you to get off the couch, out of all these quick dopamine hits like Netflix and all the others, and actually out into society and reconnecting with human beings in a real way.
Yes, I've heard it said more than once that the goal is not happiness, and we've spoken about that. We were talking about that earlier this morning. That it's productivity. I think being a productive member of society, like producing towards whatever it is, whatever your goals are, identifying those goals, having a passion, having a desire to have something or experiencing something, and working towards that. and production, I think, makes us happy, and happiness by definition of, again, achieving the goals or contentment and finding peace with, where we are, where we are and where we are going. So I want to move on from that, from the subject matter of health, and talk about wealth. And George, you said health is our greatest wealth. And I align with that. Health is, in fact, our greatest wealth. If everything is energy, then energy is everything. And if I don't have my health, then forget about the rest. I'm not.
Listen, I got a great tip about health and wealth.
Tell me.
Okay, everybody out there, I don't care what age you are, I highly recommend that you create a slush fund. It has nothing to do with retirement or traveling or whatever you're going to do. At least $150,000 in a separate slush fund for your health. Because and here's a statistic, 65, or when people reach 65, 90% will have a chronic illness or disease. 90%. That's at 65. And once you start having these problems, insurance doesn't cover most of this stuff, and you're going to have all these alternative therapies, and it's out of pocket. So a lot of people aren't able to take care of their health because they don't have the money to do it. So there you go. If everybody out there that's listening does that, you have to make sure you have that slush fund, a health slush fund.
Yeah, and we were talking about the aging, parents. So it's not just ourselves. What happens? The stats are showing 1 in 4 tops individuals have enough money to retire for whatever that is. And the main thing that you'll need is to care for yourself, later on. And so if the children are living all over the place and you don't have the means to actually retire and take care of yourself, well, what does that picture look like? That's a real issue that we're facing today with the largest segment of baby boomers like yourself. The baby boomer generation does not have enough money really to retire and take care of themselves. And people aren't moving their parents into their homes. You live in California, you have an aging, mother or father that's in New York. Are you going to move them across the country, if you even can, to move them in? Okay, do you have the means to, if they don't, to put them in a home? And what does that look like? These are real, serious, issues that we're facing there. So it is important to have money for many things. I believe that money is a tool. So it's one of the biggest issues I see is our collective relationship to money. It's what is your perspective? If you believe that money is evil, it will likely elude you. It will miss you if you have a negative relationship to money. If you believe that you need to have money for controlling, for some sort of power and control, there's an issue, with that too. I see money as a tool. So it depends on the life experience that I want to have. And my interest is not to have nicer cars or another Louis Vuitton or Chanel bag. I do care to be make a bigger contribution, make a bigger impact, build it bigger, and with a collective. And so having more money and generating wealth means I get to experience more and I get to do more for this, time that I am here.
Actually, I like what you said about being productive, and I hate the word retirement. Anybody that looks toward quitting their job or career and then retire and take trips around the world on a cruise ship and stuff like that, Mai Tais on the beach, that's the death knell, I think. I mean, I work harder now than I ever did in my life because it keeps my brain active. In fact, I think my brain's working better now than it ever did because I go up at night. I'm up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning working on a computer, writing things, doing things, creating things, developing things. And it's great. I mean, I just like to be productive. I think that's the word.
Well, there is no such thing as stagnation. So I don't know why, if the retirement age was 65, like 50 years ago with the advancements in medical technology, we are living longer today. So, really you need to go into your 70s and theoretically should be able to go into your 70s and still working with a drive. Otherwise, you're devolving, right? If we're not growing and evolving, and, stagnation will lead to, ultimately to a faster decline and death. How about you, Jess? And what is your perspective on money as a free and flexible and unattached, without kids right now where you are and all the things that are possible for you? How do you view money and wealth?
I would definitely say money is probably the most essential tool to be able to live in a way that's content. I graduated in 2008 or in 2009 during the big crash. There were no jobs. There was nothing. So I was siding sheds for people, picking weeds, so serving, bartending, everything, subbing, running groups, all the things, trying to survive. So I think money, from a basic standpoint, is if you don't have it, it is what you need to be able to have your basic needs met. You cannot thrive if you cannot survive. So anybody who is, in their 20s or in their 30s, who is looking to different things, how can you monetize, or how can you figure out a way to live what you want, lead what you live, to lead what you live, or to do the things you want in life? You cannot do that without money. So I feel like, and things are significantly more expensive. You need more things now in today's society, cell phones and tech and computers and all the things that, back in the day, $1,200 to drop down on something, that was like, that was massive. Whereas in today's society, everything is just so much more expensive, so many more things. I think that obviously we don't need as many. I now literally have a suitcase, a carry-on, and a backpack to my name. But just in terms of money in general, we grew up with this idea that money is bad, that it's greedy. I now look at corporations as, man, these corporations employing these thousands of people, these are amazing things. How can they, monetize? And then how can those individuals create even more so they can then create the life, step out of those situations? So I think money just in general, essential as a tool to be able to do things like learn, to invest in yourself, to grow, to be able to buy courses if you need them, or go to conferences if you need them, or the blueberries or the broccoli that's going to be essential for your brain, right? Because if your brain isn't super healthy, you're not going to be thinking clear, on your feet, vibing high, etc., wanting to feel motivated to go get more of the thing that's going to actually be able to help you pay for the gym membership if that's what you need for accountability, etc., to actually be able to invest more into your physical, your mental, your spiritual, whatever the journey is.
Well, my experience also with today's world versus way back when is
way back when,
way back
in the day.
Money in today's world, like you said, it's a tool. I call it the oil of life. It helps you slide through much easier. But the problem today is because of the internet, social media, and television and everything, it's thrown in our face. Rich, famous people making ridiculous amounts of money for doing hardly anything. These cribs. What's that show on MTV, Cribs?
Right.
Where these young guys, rappers, are making millions of dollars driving Lamborghinis. So everybody, like people that work hard and they have achieved success financially, they look and they go, I don't have enough. Oh my God, look at these guys. I don't have Lamborghinis. I don't have mansions. Like one of the top motivational guys in today's world, Ty Lopez, he just invited people to come to his mansion in LA to have a mansion party. Like, you feel like, oh, I'm not invited to mansion parties. I'm not hanging out with that crowd. I'm not going to Mar-a-Lago. I didn't get invited to go up to see Donald Trump. And I think, I don't care who you are, that affects you. It's like, wow, I'm not making enough. I really don't have enough. When you actually do. It's funny.
Well, we live in a world of not enoughness. Like, do I matter? What's my purpose? Am I enough? Do I have enough?
Exactly.
And so comparison is
the thief of joy.
Comparison is the thief of joy. And so going into, a classic Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, in order to really have or achieve anything, it's got to start with a burning desire. So everything has to start with, you have to want it. So for all of the books and tools out there and tips and tricks and strategies, and we can read the 5 love languages and the 4 agreements and the 7 habits of highly effective people. Thank you, Stephen Covey. All of these things are wonderful, and without a burning desire to have, it's not going to happen. It's really just not going to happen.
Yeah, and in fact, I tell people the main thing to do is set a goal and then have your action plan, but then there's 3 key ingredients. You have to be persistent, consistent, and relentless toward that goal.
Consistent,
persistent, and relentless. that means you keep going at it. You don't stop. And you just have that thought, that idea, that energy, whatever you want to call it, the secret,
Well, a burning
the drive,
desire
the burning
will
desire.
lead to the
Exactly.
consistency
Yeah, you just have
and
to.
the persistence and being relentless.
Exactly. So you just got to keep at it and make sure that that goal is what you're working toward. Don't deviate. And too many people are distracted today. That's the other problem we
Oh,
have.
please.
Oh my God. People
Everybody thinks they have ADD or
Oh,
ADHD,
man.
and it's like there's a shortage of Adderall. I've never tried it, but it seems to be effective for some people and also can be problematic. But the everyone is distracted,
Yeah.
and so
I get pitched probably 3 to 5 new deals and projects a week. Every week. It's like I'm working on these things, my projects, and somebody's going, "Hey, George, I got this deal over here. And they all look great."
shiny object syndrome.
I go, I wish I had the time to do that and get involved in that. And, it's overwhelming.
I get excited. I love hearing about what other people are up to, and
I love it too.
and get proposed many things, and I appreciate that, learning about what other people are doing, what's out there, what are they up to, and wow, that sounds great. Yeah, I'd like to be part of that. And it's like, back on track here.
Well, one of the cool disciplines, okay, I wrote my books, of course. I have my books.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, that was really an amazing process to write a book. Anybody out there, you should at least give it a shot, because you talk about mental discipline. I mean, you have to focus to write that, whatever it is, whatever you're doing. I mean, that is an amazing discipline. It helps train your mind, because you have to keep coming back to that. And I wrote 6 books in 1 year.
Well, that's impressive, because now we have ChatGPT and
Oh, yeah,
Claude.ai or something. I haven't
you don't have to even be a
fooled
musician.
around with these too much. But the question
yeah.
is, what is the authenticity of that? But a lot of the ChatGPT and the technology, the AI, is really here to generate wealth big time if you learn, and it's in its infancy still, if you know how to use it.
Well, right now there's companies out there that will completely almost staff your whole company. You can get rid of all your employees. They'll have salesmen, programmers, coders, social media experts. All are virtual.
All AI?
Yeah, all AI. Virtual assistants, virtual workers.
Okay, that's different than let's say
they're
AI technology,
yeah,
because people are outsourcing outside of the U.S. call centers and things in other
well,
countries.
these are
as
also
virtual,
these are
like
AI
remote.
assistants too. They're virtual and they're AI assistants.
Okay.
So they have there's new companies cropping up. In fact, I have a friend that has a company that staffs most of your operation with these AI assistants.
Again, so what's happening here? So we're eliminating humans.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so then what are all these people
I don't
going
know.
to do?
Well, I think we're going to have a brain drain at some point. I think our brains aren't going to be able to handle it. It's going to be too much. I mean, I think my brain has actually been really changed major from 20, 30 years ago.
What do you think, Jess?
Yeah, so I would have something to say about this for sure. So artificial intelligence, there's 2 ways to look at it. One, it's going to steal the jobs. What are people going to do? Or it's going to help people be more efficient and productive at their jobs so that they can spend more time doing things like working out, investing in themselves, learning, growing, connecting with people. So there's an efficiency component to artificial intelligence in general. I would say the downside is when you are writing a book, because it's coming from your heart, your mind, your soul, there's a processing that happens in the brain. So you have to take a thought, you have to be able to basically synthesize everything that you're thinking and put that onto paper. That is a skill. So there will be an entire generation that will not have that ability to truly be able to think critically, to be able to problem solve, because it is so easy to just go, hey, chat, what do you think about this? You talk to it like it's your friend. You can program it. I went to Marketing AI conference in Cleveland a couple weeks ago. The entire experience, when I walked away from it, I went, boom. I know all the AI tools that I'm going to make my company more efficient so that I can continue to travel, so I can continue to, go around the world following through on my mission, and being able to use that as a tool to better myself and advance what it is that I'm looking to do. If all humans use that in that same capacity and don't fear it, it's not about the fact that, it's going to take your job. It will take your job if you are content and settled on the skill set that you currently have and are unwilling to adjust and to grow and to learn and to be able to keep up with society, because society is moving quicker than ever. In 2 to 5 years, what we know now, even these podcasting and online and YouTube and, the metaverse and, all of the things, it's going to transform so quickly that there will become a divide between people who are open and embrace this advancement. It's not going anywhere. It's like the internet, when you can't open a Pandora's box and then shut it down. So it's going to become a mindset. Are you going to be with it or are you going to resist it? Because what you resist persists, right?
Well, here's the other problem, though. Most people aren't capable of doing what you're able to do because you're at a higher level mentally, and so are you. But think of the masses. Are they able to do what you're talking about? In other words, you have
The
to
average
you have
IQ
to
individual.
train people in critical thinking, logical thinking, and even you have to train people to be healthy. Most people in this country aren't trained to look at health as important. The younger generation isn't. Like in school, you should have a whole year of all about health and preventative health care and working out and nutrition. I mean, a whole year of that. What are we teaching in
Like
schools?
a required course on
Yes,
health.
on health.
Yeah.
Well-
And then wealth, another
Health,
one.
wealth, and relationships.
Exactly. Where did anybody learn how to date and mate? Did you ever have a course in dating? Mm-mm. Okay, think about that. The most important thing in your life is whoever your life partner is. And there's not
Single
a course.
Biggest decision you make.
Exactly, the biggest decision you make, and there's no training. In fact, even your parents can't help you. They don't know how the heck they did it. They bumped into each other when they were at some
It's
nightclub.
very different dating these days.
Yeah, and now you have to be, well, that's what I basically coach and I train and I teach people how to find a mate, a compatible mate, using a system I call referral matchmaking. So what you do, instead of going online or going to a bar or a nightclub, you basically use your social network to help you find a compatible mate. And you make this thing called a love list. You write everything you want: physical characteristics, personality traits, age range, deal makers, deal breakers. You make copies, you give it to all your friends and neighbors and family and say, hey, do you know somebody that fits this description? And if you do that, out of all those people, somebody's going to know somebody that they can introduce you to that fits that description. And especially if you have male friends or girlfriends that are single, you make sure you're all looking out for each other. You find out what they're looking for, they find out what you're looking for, and when you're out and you meet somebody, you say, hey, you'd be perfect for my girlfriend. You'd be perfect for my male friend. And actually, that's how I found my wife. This was back in 1979.
Well, it's great that you went into that, you ultimate networker, you, and your history of being a matchmaker, because that segues us from talking about wealth creation and how we don't do this life and get the success alone. So again, the quality of our life experience depends on the quality of our relationships. And it's this whole idea that if you conceive it and you believe it and you can achieve it, and yes, I absolutely align with the quantum field, and it's a knowing and energy, frequency, vibration, and the way I'm showing up is a true, is just a knowing that in manifestation, the secret, we hear all these things, and I do believe in that. At the same time, we get to do this life with other people. We're not going to achieve the goals just, in a bubble, like in a box, alone by ourselves.
Yeah, well,
and I know you're a big believer.
A support system, and like what you're saying, the younger generation, you should start building a support system, a database of people that you can trust, that you can connect with. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing that I talk about. You really don't have any family or friends in life. You have connections. That's the thing. When I finally realized that, I go, all these people come and go in your life. Yes. And there's a thing called the social exchange theory. And what that means is that when you connect with somebody, you have to have an equal balance of benefit. You benefit me, I benefit you. When it starts to be imbalanced, okay, and one person benefits more than the other, then that connection weakens. And at some point, it might even unplug. But that's your whole life is nothing but connections at a time and a place. So that takes a lot of the emotion out of it. It's like, well, we're connected, but I don't expect this to last because we're only connected because we're on this show together or we're doing a business together. Well, but when that ends, the connection is going to become unplugged.
Have you heard of Dunbar's law? Dunbar's law talks about how we really only have the capacity to be in relationship with 150 people. Why 150? I don't know what the magic number, but think about that. How we are more connected. There's, you know, I have over 5,000 quote unquote friends on Facebook on one platform. I mean, how could I definitely know more than 150 people that I could tell you about and actually know them and could be connected at any point in time. Maybe more than the average person, but I love people. You know, I'm a true Gemini and social and extrovert. And so I actually, some people get drained being in connection and with others. I actually get my energy from other people. So I'm energized by being here today with the two of you and having this conversation. That actually gives me, gives me energy. So in relationship, Jess, so what is the key to successful relationships? How do we form relationships? What is the foundation of them?
I think definitely when you're talking about in terms of the connection, right? I think that this is something that was brought to my attention within the last couple of years of just, you're right. I have lived in 4 countries, right? Worked in 5, 6, been all over. And it's always been the people and those connections and the experience that, made the community, which then made the experience. How do you build relationship? I think you come together. And I think it first starts with, what's going on the inner self. So if you've got, I don't know how familiar people are with like the emotional vibrational scale, right? So feelings of joy, happiness are on the top, and then anger and resentment and shame and are all at the bottom. When you encounter someone, you can feel that. So if you're somebody who is putting off this kind of, I don't want to say toxic, but an aura that just doesn't feel good, it becomes more difficult than to have somebody come along than that wants to connect to you, because people are looking for what ultimately feels good through their interactions with other people. It's kind of like ants going around just being like, right? Communicating. And when we find what really works and we have that connection, we then make the choice of whether or not we want to stick with that or not. You are absolutely right in terms of it's only good when you're aligned and when you're either you have something that you're working on together, so you've got a vision that allows the little stuff that comes up that just don't really matter. Humans make things out of nothing, right? So when you have a common purpose or you've got something that does bring you together for that, but people come into our lives at different times for different reasons, and it's always to teach us something. I started traveling when I was 18. I was out of the country for the first time at 19, and I haven't stopped in 20 years. All of those connections on the way, I learned something from someone. There was always an exchange of information or always an exchange of a different perspective. And I really feel like it was through those airplane flights, 3-4 hour long conversations where I was able to maybe process or learn from somebody who had done something. And then, I've always been inspired by people just doing amazing things, even the littlest things. On one air flight, I had met this woman who, she had worked for some large corporation, and her passion was photography. And so she shifted that, started making more money. I went, that is so cool. I want to be able to, just hearing that, it just opens doors in your mind that maybe because of your close network, your family, your friends, your, people who just aren't doing the thing, they can open and wow, that's possible, which then makes your limiting beliefs seem believable, which then helps you in the future.
I think you need, and it starts with a curiosity. So you need to care. You have to care, you need to be interested, you need to be curious, or this won't happen. So, one of the many great things that my mother taught me and my younger sisters is be about other people. You already know about you. So you're not going to learn anything talking about you. Be curious, ask questions.
I'm question queen. Yes, right.
And so people, how do you know so much? Calling me the 411. That's because I ask a lot of questions. And that's how you learn is by asking questions. And so they're the people we're buried, right? Everyone's got their head down looking at their phone. You go into restaurants, you're sitting on an airplane, you could not care less about the person you're touching elbows with and striking up a conversation. So it does start with a genuine curiosity. And really, honestly, if I could just encourage people, talk to the Uber driver. I have learned so much from, Uber drivers before. And people, like you said, on airplanes, all kinds of different places. If you reached out and said something to me at a lunch table in the middle of a conference, and with 1,900 people there. So had you not started a conversation and got curious, you heard me talking to some other people, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. So, I mean, that's really, and you, Ultimate Networker, also, you are fantastic at networking people together. It's awesome.
Well, the other thing too is I always recommend that when you're talking to people, especially when you first meet people, always ask them some questions about themselves, which is great, and also edify them. When you see something you like about another person, like
Acknowledge.
Tina, I love your hair. You have fantastic hair and great energy. And like you have young beauty, excitement, traveler. So like when you meet people, tell them what you like about them. And then the other thing is ask people, how can I help you? What are you looking for? What in life that in my network of people, how can I help you? You looking for customers or money or funding or advice or tips? Maybe I can refer you to somebody. So those are key things. Ask questions about them, edify them, and then ask how you can help them. And then you'll make somebody that has a real strong interest in having a relationship with you. So,
And of course, we get to thank you, Mom. 2 words. My mother said to me, I've got 2 words for you for success, right? We all have our definition of success. 2 words for you in life to be successful at anything you do. Pay attention. If you just pay attention, you're 99% of the way there to being successful. So pay attention to your words, being thank you, Don Miguel Ruiz, be impeccable with your words. You know, pay attention to the emotions, the language, the energy of other people. Pay attention to your surroundings, right? The fine print.
One other good tip too about words is always when you're talking to a person, say their name a lot. Like when you're talking over here to Jess, every time she hears her name, it sets off a warm, fuzzy feeling in her. Wow.
What I want you to know, Jess, is that.
Yeah, right. Sometimes
Thanks, Tina.
Thanks, George.
Yes, that's
I really
right.
appreciate, George, your
Thank
insight
you,
and your
Tina.
wisdom.
And Jess, it's nice talking to you too.
This has been great. I mean, we could go on.
No,
obviously.
wait. Don't you feel better that we're saying each other's names a lot?
Yes, George.
You
Yes,
feel better
George.
already. There you go.
Yes, George.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tina.
Right.
See, we're all just so happy.
Happiness. Happiness. So thank you both so much for being here with me today as we continue to lead what we live as rock stars. And so join me, Lead What You Live podcast with Tina Lizzio. Jess, where can my viewers find you?
ProjectUltimateLife.com or _Jess Hoffman on Instagram.
Perfect. And George?
And YouTube.
Okay, if anybody wants a free copy of my book, How to Be an Ultimate Networker, go to my website, theultimatenetworker.com. Get on my email list, and I'll send you a free PDF copy of this book on how to become kind of like me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
Something we should all strive for. Right, George?
Right.
I
That's
hope
right.
I hope I can help everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Ciao for now.
We could have talked